Good evening, everybody. I want to appreciate everybody for joining us for the Cornelius Candidate Forum tonight, sponsored and hosted by the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our glorious and wonderful mayor from Cornelius. And Mayor Washam, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here tonight. Welcome to Cornelius Town Hall. If you don't already know, Sharon can confirm this is kind of my home away from home over here. So it's a pretty good place. But thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for sponsoring this. We roll through here every 2 years on odd years, and you're right here with us, and we definitely appreciate that and appreciate your sponsorship. And I do want to thank everybody here that's present tonight and everybody that's listening in on our social media and on the Zoom connection. Thank you. Thank you for your confidence in me, and thank you for allowing me to serve another term as your mayor. It's a great pleasure for me to do that, and I appreciate the opportunity to do it at least one more time. So, you know, you guys own this building too, so I will say to you, you know, welcome to your house as well. Thank you to all the voters here in the audience for taking the time to come tonight. All those that are watching, we greatly appreciate that as well. So you play a really, really important role in the future of our town, and that is selecting 5 commissioners that will serve us for the next 2 years. And that will determine, as you know, I'm sure, what the town focuses on over these next few years. The town really is at a crossroads. I really mean that, of maturing, and it needs to have effective and really bold leadership to provide the services and the capital that is needed to our community while making the choices with our finances, such as our tax rates, our fund balance, our AA bond rating, and all those things that are so important to the financial stability of our town. And I think you want to ask yourself tonight, will the next 5 commissioners support the citizens' top 2 priorities? You know, we had a survey earlier this year which allowed the citizens to speak up and tell us what their priorities were, and they came out real strong, number 1 being public safety, and number 2 being transportation. And I hope these candidates up here behind me tonight and others yet to come will take that seriously, and I hope they will get some good questions as it relates to those priorities. And, you know, the fact is we've got $419 billion coming to our town over the next few years to help us with this infrastructure, and we got to make sure it happens when they say it's going to happen. So we're all working hard on that as we speak. I really hope the candidates will speak on their record as it relates to public safety and transportation as well, the 2 top priorities, as I said, by our citizens. And I want to tell you that I think we've got good candidates. I think we've got 4 good non-incumbent candidates, and I think we've got 5 good incumbent candidates. And they've done a good job. Our incumbents have certainly done a good job in addressing public safety and transportation while being responsible for the lowest tax rate in this region. And I'm proud of that. I think that's something that we need to beat the drum about and be proud about it. So I'll tell you, if you hear any hesitation on the part of any of these folks that are up here tonight on as it relates to public safety or transportation, you need to beware, because that's what our citizens are looking for. As mayor of our town, I really do have a huge stake in the outcome of this election, as it will determine the future of our town. I really do take my job as mayor very, very seriously. This is my hometown, as most of you know, and I'm really, really proud of it and only want the best for it. And I'm personally determined that I will leave it better, way better, than I found it 8 years ago when I first ran for office. And we're on track to do just that. We are on track to leave it better than we found it during the years ahead. There's really not much broke in our town, thankfully, and I'm grateful for that. I'll be listening intently tonight and wish you all you candidates here and out here the very best as you go through this session. It's an important night, and remember, to the candidates, remember that you represent the entire town of Cornelius, not just certain segments of it, not just based on certain issues. There's a lot of issues that we deal with. You represent the whole town, and I hope you'll keep that in mind as you respond tonight and as you continue to run your campaign. We've got some big issues ahead for this town. They include the red line. They include the fire department transition. They include our park enhancements, and certainly these road priorities that are coming our way. You know, I never thought I would want to be mayor during the time that all this construction was going to happen on our roads in this town, but looks like over the next couple of years that's going to get underway, and I may be just doing just that. So anyway, I hope this is a hearty discussion tonight. There's no time, no room for fake news, everybody. I hope you hear that. I want to thank all the candidates for throwing your hat in the ring. It takes some nerve and fortitude to do that. But hang in there. Please be civil all the way through the rest of the time. And most of all, I want to say to all of you, please, please vote. Tell your neighbors to vote. Let's get people out and let's get this right. It's important to have a great board for this town. Let's turn people out to vote. We have got to get them here, and I'll do everything I can to do that. You'll be seeing that, and I hope all of our citizens will do the same. Thanks again, Chamber, and y'all have a great evening. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Mayor. Real briefly, I'd like to thank Bill Russell, who's our leader at the Chamber, for putting this together and helping out this evening. I want to thank Vicki and Jack Stevens, who will be running questions. So if you have questions that you would like to put forth, there's 3x5 cards in the audience. Raise your hands, and Jack or Vicki will pick them up and bring them up to me. I'm going to go through the procedure here in a moment, how this evening will operate. Real quick question. Is there anybody in the audience that's running for elected office other than a Cornelius position? Okay, hearing none, what we like to do is just give them an opportunity to introduce themselves if they happen to be on hand. For those that don't know, my name is Jeff Tart. I am the Public Policy Chair for the Chamber, and I will serve as the moderator for this evening. To give you a little bit of an explanation of the format. The candidates have seen this, but it's been a few weeks, and just as a reminder how we'll proceed this evening, and so the audience and those following along will understand. Questions will come from on 3x5 cards or through the chat that will be brought to me. I will kind of do a Robert's Rules of Order like we do town hall meetings. They'll all come through the chair or the moderator in this case, and mainly to make sure we're not asking duplicate questions, or that we have questions that are appropriate to be answered by all the candidates, because they'll all be asked the same question and asked to respond. And I'll explain how we start in a minute. Each question will be posed to each candidate. They'll have an opportunity to have 1 minute to respond, and then we'll proceed to give everyone a chance to do that answer, and then we'll shift one person on the panel and start the next question. So it's not the first person on the spot each time to begin each question. The order, obviously we're seated in alphabetical order, and we'll in a minute start with opening introductions by each candidate, and then we will start the actual questions, and I'll let you know. What we did is we put all the names in a hat. We did this with Huntersville on Tuesday evening, and we had a member of the chamber from KS Audio draw the name out of the hat, and that will determine who is the first person to respond to the first question, which will determine the sequence for the rest of the evening. Candidates, again, will be given a minute to respond to each question. It's a reminder, this is a forum, not a debate, so there's not time to rebut something said by somebody else, and there's definitely the candidates are not allowed to direct a question to another candidate. So this is a chance for everybody to put their best foot forward. Timekeeper, just so everybody's aware, Bill is keeping the time. When we get down to 15 seconds left out of the minute, he will be holding a sign that the candidates can see, and they know they've got 15 seconds to wrap up their comments, and when their time is up, they'll get the red stop sign to so note that. I don't think we'll have an issue with this, but we've got a limited amount of time with 2 panels tonight, so I'd appreciate if kind of the audience would hold applause and comments from the audience, because it'll just allow us to get to the questions and the answers and the time for the candidates themselves. After we finish all the questions, there'll be a 1-minute closing statement by each candidate. And as a reminder, we should be, if we're not speaking, we would ask that you keep your mask on this evening following COVID protocols. So with that, we will start with the opening introductions of the candidate, and we'll do this alphabetically. So Mr. Furch, you are on.
Good evening. I'm Colin Furch, and thank you for the hosts of this opportunity. As a newcomer to this process, I've learned more over the past few months than I could have possibly imagined. I've talked to so many folks. I can tell you one thing: Cornelius residents love this town. I love this town. I'm one of you. Yes, there are a growing number of issues that need to be addressed, and there are several of us here that are running to do just that. I was the average resident who never went to meetings, complained about traffic, banks, and so on. What provoked me to run was the project known as Junker. Despite negative public feedback, despite Planning Commission's recommendation to not approve, the current commission, minus Mr. Bilodeau, approved it. This has outraged many residents and now puts us on high alert. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Thank you.
Mr. Gilroy.
I'm Dave Gilroy. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the folks watching online. I have lived here at the end of Torrance Chapel over 20 years. Also own a house in Bailey's Glen where my mom lives. I've got 4 daughters. They've gone through CMS or are still in CMS. I started and I operate a small company doing corporate finance and accounting. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I spent 14 years up here on the town board, now on sabbatical. And it is a service. I love this town. I'll tell you, it is a service. There's a lot about the meetings that I don't miss. But there are 2 issues that I'm very concerned about: overcrowding and overspending, and we'll talk more about those tonight.
All right, Dr. Miltich. And if everybody, when you're speaking, if you'll pull your microphones forward like Mr. Gilroy did, that'll help for the audience at home. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending this candidates forum. I am Michael Miltic, but everybody calls me Dr. Mike. I am a retired ENT surgeon, having practiced for 35 years. I have been your commissioner for 6 years and have been fully engaged in that role. Besides serving on several important town committees, I have been elected chair of the Regional Transportation Planning Organization, CARPO. I believe in service to others. That is what I've done my whole life. That is why I'm running for re-election, so I can continue to help Cornelius move forward.
Mr. Ross.
Good evening. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Thurman Ross. I am a Cornelius native. I've been involved in the Cornelius politics for over 20 years. I have been part of the process. I have made some of the decisions that the reason why you love Cornelius at this point, and I'm seeking re-election and I ask for your support.
Thank you. Mrs. Sisson.
Thank you to the Chamber for hosting these important forums, and a special thanks to all of you who are taking the time to attend, either in person or watching online, to learn about your candidates for the town board. I'm Trisha Sisson. I'm seeking my 2nd term. I'm a small business owner here in Cornelius, and in this past term, I've been focused on improving the quality of life for all Cornelius residents through a commitment to public safety, transportation improvements, and keeping our tax rate the lowest in the area. If I'm fortunate enough to earn your vote, I will continue this relentless focus, working very hard to make your town even better.
All right, thank you. Well, referring to the Carolina Panthers hat that we drew the names out of by KS Audio, the person who will start this evening is Dr. Miltich. You'll get the first question. Each of the candidates will follow with the same question, and then the second question, Mr. Ross, you'll begin, and so forth throughout the evening. So with that, the first question to start us off is, would you please share your vision for Cornelius?
Well, I have the vision statement in the plan, and I certainly believe in it. Cornelius is a vibrant, inclusive, small community on Lake Norman dedicated to promoting the highest quality of life for all residents. And I think there's some key points there. It has to be inclusive. And that's the one thing you see in Cornelius is you have like 6 distinct zones. They're all a little bit different, but not all of us are the same. We are all different in promoting the highest quality of life. And you do that providing services and safety and infrastructure and variety of opportunities to make that happen. And just call me Dr. Mike. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ross.
I also believe in the town vision, but along with that, I believe that Cornelius is be able to be a diverse city. It's a town where, it's a town with a small town feeling, where everyone will be neighborly, the quality of life will be great, and there's a vibrant downtown for all citizens, and citizens that people would love to come to visit the place.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Sisson.
My vision for Cornelius is to provide our citizens with the best possible quality of life by focusing on public safety and security, improved transportation, and keeping our tax rate low. You know, Cornelius is a really special place, and it needs to remain special. I've seen this community come together for the greater good, for our first citizens here from Afghanistan to the citizens that have been here all their lives. And I want to maintain that vision for Cornelius, that small town feel, but with a tax rate that remains low, by focusing on the things that are important, by creating the revenue that we need to make sure that we improve the town where we need to have it improved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Furch.
So I see Cornelius in a way where we need to focus on responsible growth. I believe in a town that is safe and thriving on all levels, business and otherwise. I see us coming together more often. The events of the town are very important. I don't know that a lot of folks get together as much as we should. I think that's important that we stay focused there. I think the vision for Cornelius is your leaders need to listen. And I think we all need to focus on that. We're a lake town, but we don't really give folks much access to that. And so I envision a town where we have folks that can really enjoy that a little bit more.
Thank you. Mr. Gilroy.
To me, Cornelius is not just a great town, it's a spectacular place to live. When you think about the lake, the emerging culture and arts on the east side, the proximity to Davidson College, the proximity to Charlotte, we have a chance to be, and my aspirations are high, we have a chance to be one of the 5 or 10 best places to live in the United States, I think. Above all, we just can't mess it up, and that's why I'm so concerned about overcrowding.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to this next question, and this will begin with Mr. Ross. Question, and there's kind of two sides of this coin. Do you think the board, town board, should vote on projects that have been rejected by the planning commission? And I guess the corollary, should they approve them automatically?
I think they should vote. I think they have to look at it a case by case project as it comes before. I think we have to look at the bigger picture and see what's best for Cornelius, and if it's going to be maintain the quality of life for our citizens, and we need to be responsible in doing that. And if we can make some changes after the planning board has denied it, and that's going to benefit the town, I think we should vote for it.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Sisson, same question.
So the planning board is an advisory board, and they do their utmost to follow the code and the land use plan. A lot of times, their interpretation of the land use plan and how they read the code aren't exactly what was intended, and sometimes those two documents don't actually talk to each other very well, and they're in conflict with one another. And so the planning board will vote against a project based on that. And then it's important for the town board to then recognize why the planning board rejected that and determine, is there a way to fix it so that those two documents actually work together. And if you can, and you can then approve a very quality project, then I think it's the right thing for the town board to do exactly that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Furch.
Well, certainly I think the board should be able to vote on that. But if the public and the planning board come back and are not in favor of something, I think it's very difficult to have people understand why the board should approve it. I understand there's different facets. I understand there's different zoning aspects of any project. But I think we need to listen to both the folks in the town and the commission and make a decision based on that.
All right, Mr. Gilroy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people scratched their heads when there was a project that was unanimously not approved by the planning board, and then the town board approved it. And it's almost a sense of just, they'll find a way to get anything approved up here. I first volunteered for the planning board in 2001 and served on that board for a couple of years. They're good people. They work hard. They hear all the same set of facts. I could imagine a policy where their opinion matters. And especially if there's a unanimous vote against a project, I could see that getting derailed.
All right, thank you. Dr. Miltich.
We have an absolutely wonderful conditional zoning process. First of all, 80% of projects that are proposed do not even make it into the public venue because our staff has a good sense of what will and will not be approved. So 80% doesn't even get out of the starting block. And then it goes through a process of a community hearing, public hearing, planning board, architectural review board, traffic advisory board. And at each stage, that project gets modified and improved and more acceptable. And in this particular case, the board agreed with the planning board and would not vote for approval. And it was bad optics. That should have been allowed to come to a vote and had it turned down. But the board had heard of the concerns that were voiced at the planning board and heard of the concerns by the citizens, and the petitioner made significant changes to the plan, and that is what got accepted.
All right, thank you. The next question, we're going to begin with Mrs. Sisson, and this is the thing we deal with every day here now. And so the question would, folks would like you to share your thoughts on what can and should be done about traffic, mobility, and connectivity in our area.
Well, what can and what actually is being done is we have a lot of projects that have been approved and are funded and have actually started to help with the mobility here in Cornelius. The mayor started off his discussion with the fact that we have millions upon millions of NCDOT dollars going into 13 separate road projects that are going to improve our mobility. The widening of West Catawba, which has started, right-of-way acquisition has started, and utility relocation will start very soon, will actually add 160% capacity. We'll go from 20,000 cars of capacity a day to 50,000 cars of capacity a day. So we're doing a lot to improve our roads, and we also need to focus on our greenways and on our bike paths and on our sidewalks, and we will continue to do that as a town board and work with NCDOT. We're actually very fortunate on this board currently to have the chair of CRTPO, Dr. Miltic, on our board. So we know in Cornelius we're getting a lot of focus on transportation. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Furch. I gave you a new degree.
Very nice, thank you. I don't think there's any question that the projects are coming. I don't think anybody questions that the NCDOT is trying their best. I think the question remains, why do we continue to add projects to a town that is not ready for these builds? And saying no is okay. Saying it doesn't fit is okay. And I think that's really what the frustration of the folks that I talk to on a regular basis is. We know it's coming. We know we're growing. We know we can't say no to everything. But why does everything have to be so big and hundreds of apartments? Why does that have to be the case when we keep adding more folks to the zip code? So I think the question to answer directly is, the way to fix this is to slow the process down.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gilroy.
Colin's right. You have to work not just on the supply side, but on the demand side as well up here. We have lots and lots of road building that's going to happen in the coming years. That's terrific. Those projects take tens of millions of dollars, and they take many, many years, and the timelines are unpredictable. That's in process. In the meantime, we cannot make matters worse by doing what we've done just in the last 2 months, where 1,422 new apartments were approved in August and September. Massive multifamily projects. When you add that to what's already approved but not yet built in multifamily, you're talking about almost a 50% growth in our multifamily installed base. It's not just the impact on the roads, it's the overcrowding in the schools, the stress on the police and fire department, and it does drive these increases in tax rate periodically.
All right, thank you. Dr. Miltic.
I have now learned more about transportation than I ever thought I would ever need to learn. That's all I've been working on for the last 6 years. We certainly have a lion's share of projects coming to Cornelius that are long overdue, and we can thank the state for passing the Strategic Transportation Investment Act, which made allocations more data-driven than good old boy-driven. But Cornelius alone is not going to solve our problem. And that's why I've been working hard at the CRTPO level to look at regional solutions. And there are significant initiatives that are taking place because this whole region is going to have a 50, not just Cornelius, the whole Metrolina 12-county region is predicted to have a 50% population increase in the next 10 years. One of those initiatives is Beyond 77. The other is Connect 77. These are both tools that we're going to increase our mobility in this area. I'm also on our transportation board here in town, and we're looking at multimodal and how it can be used to get people out of their cars.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ross.
In addition, working with the the state and transportation needs, the town is doing what it can in terms of locally, the streets it's on, in terms of providing connectivity throughout town. So we are doing something in the meantime. And we're not just sitting by not doing anything. Where there's connectivity, opportunities, and road problems that we can fix that are locally owned, we're doing that.
All right, thank you. All right, the next question, we're going to begin with Mr. Furch. And here's kind of a philosophical question for each of you. And when is it appropriate for the town to purchase land, and for what purposes?
That certainly is philosophical. I think it really just depends on what it's going to be used for. I think the cost is certainly a factor. What's the return on investment for the town? What's the actual usage and benefit to the town? I'm not necessarily opposed to this on its surface, but I think it really just depends on the project itself and how does it benefit the folks of Cornelius.
All right, Mr. Gilroy?
Yeah, that's a fairly routine activity for the town over the years. It may be transitory, where we're just banking land that we think is strategic, and we want to sort of guide development in that area. And so holding that asset on our balance sheet for a period of time makes sense. And then it may be permanent, where we're just trying to acquire land to build a new park, for example, or some other public facility like the Kane Arts Center across the street.
Great, thank you. Dr. Milchik?
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to those two comments. I mean, any purchase has to be as part of a plan. You got to justify the cost. You got to know where you're going to go with it. Now, some purchases are just because of tax default, and they sort of fall in your lap. But you got to have a plan. That's have a vision, and that's something that this town does at budget time, as we sit down and review our vision and look at where we're going. It's while we're setting the budget.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ross?
So I agree when we have a vision, but one example that the town did is they didn't purchase the land, but they did purchase an option for integrity. And with that option, the town decided what it wanted and zoned that piece of property the way for what we have today. So I think in opportunities like that, that the town can do something to zone it, make it part of the vision. I think in opportunity, things like that is a great opportunity where the town should purchase land or purchase an option.
All right, Ms. Sisson?
Yeah, I think all of those answers are absolutely accurate. I would just add to that if there's a purpose regarding transportation needs or public safety, those are also times where the town should consider and would consider purchasing land. An example would be if we need to correct a situation where left turns are being made and it's a dangerous situation, and we need to create an environment where only right turns can be made, or a specific U-turn has to be made, then parcels of property might need to be purchased for that. But I agree with everything that everyone has said here.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Gilroy, you'll be next up. And the question becomes, should not-for-profit programs be supported by taxpayer dollars? And are there good instances to do that or not?
Again, it's a routine activity at fairly small scale for the town. over the years, we have contributed, as other towns in the area have, to the Ada Jenkins Center, for example. And when organizations do, phenomenal work, public service work within the geography of the town, and there's this kind of very, very intimate relationship that goes back many, many years, we do that. We try to not make it a rule because, of course, it's there's all kinds of nonprofit organizations that are doing great work, and so it'll be difficult for us to support them all. Another good example is, again, where we contributed what ended up being $4 million from the 2017 bond in order to get the Kane Center started.
All right, thank you. Dr. Milton.
Yeah. The town's been very selective. We look at not-for-profits that provide real services to our community and perform functions that wouldn't get performed otherwise. I mean, Ada Jenkins is a prime example. The other is the domestic violence people that are here in town. But it's, and they have to every year come in and petition. It's not an automatic thing, but these are just great relationships, partnership, where the town can look after its citizens in more ways than it can by itself.
Mr. Ross?
I don't think I can add much more than that because we have contributed to nonprofits. I think the ones which contribute to the town is not in that business, and if it's going to help our citizens one way or the other, they should contribute.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Sisson.
Yeah, this is a budget item that the town undergoes in every budget cycle. We evaluate each of the nonprofits that we've contributed to in the past. We look to see if we can contribute the same. In some occasions, we look to see if we can contribute more. We'll continue contributing to the arts, even though we've moved our arts program over to the Kane Center for the Arts, but that is a nonprofit that I believe the town will probably continue to support as those will be town arts projects. And then as we move forward, and evaluate the government money, the subsidies that have come our way through the American Recovery Plan, there's a lot of money that can be slated to nonprofits in those funds, and there's about $8 million coming to the town of Cornelius. So we'll have continued budget discussions around all of our nonprofit expenditures going forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. Perch.
I think it all goes back to the original point of what's good for the town. And I'm certainly in favor of supporting programs that support folks in the town. If these are legitimate organizations that are doing good, I think that's certainly where we want to focus our attention. Is there a benefit to the residents? Is there something that we as a town can gain as a community? And certainly, are these programs national or local? I'd be more interested in supporting local causes as opposed to national causes. So yes, I think it's certainly reasonable to participate.
All right, thank you. All right, the next question is going to start with Dr. Miltich, and the question is, can you share your thoughts on the importance or where it fits in priorities in establishing good relationships with neighboring towns, the county, the General Assembly, DOT, those sorts of folks?
Relationships matter. And certainly in the transportation world, we have to look at regional solutions. We have to work together because there's only finite so many dollars. And we have to look at solutions that help out everybody to make the best use of those dollars. So that means talking to our neighbors. It also means talking to our state legislators because they ultimately control the purse. But the more we talk, the more we collaborate, the better the results will be and more bang for the buck.
Thank you. Mr. Ross.
Yes, I think it's very important that we establish a relationship with local, state, and federal, because we can't do things by ourselves, and we're going to need to build those relationships that will benefit for the region, and we can't just be selfish and look at things for ourselves. So working and establishing those relationships throughout the forms of government, it has, for me, and the relations I have, it has paid off to Cornelius, and I have established relationships on the federal, state, and local level, and over the years, Cornelius has benefited from.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Sisson.
Yeah, I could not agree more. We have to continue to keep those relationships up, in addition to the ones that you named in terms of maintaining relationships with local towns, federal and state. We also maintain close relationships with NCDOT. We're blessed to have a staff that works very closely with DOT, and that's one of the reasons that we have so many road improvement projects coming, but also with our CMS school board. You know, it's an interesting fact that our schools in Cornelius are not overcrowded by Cornelius students. They're, in fact, 44% of the students that go to Huff are Cornelius residents. The remainder of the students are Davidson, Huntersville, and Charlotte. And so not working with CMS means that we'll continue